Okay, hello. Welcome and thank you to those who joined me in our beginner watercolor session last week, and to anybody who's popped on today just to have an overview of your very basic starting supplies for beginning your watercolor journey. So I must always preface this information sessions that these are just suggestions and recommendations. I really encourage everybody to explore different types and qualities of materials. You know, you don't have to spend a lot of money. Pop onto Marketplace sometimes and see what people are selling or clearing out of their houses, and try different things and make your own determinations of what is going to work for you, right? This is your artistic journey. So I will carry on here. Welcome, it's Friday. I have the floppy top knot on the Friday, and I'm gonna go through what I use in my class and what I kind of explore with my own artistic journey, and we'll go from there. So in no particular order, I always start with checking out my mood and my mindset when I go into any artistic process. So yes, we need brushes and we need paints and all those things, but the real tools through this is your mind, your hands, whatever you end up putting in them, or just using your hands for paint, your heart, your soul, your belly, your intuition, all of those things. Sometimes we can come into a painting session or an artistic session and feel all wonky donkey and we're having a bad day and all those things. So check in with your mood and your mindset. You don't have to feel good about it, but I guarantee you that once you get started and getting some paint onto your paper, your canvas, hopefully you should feel a little bit more grounded and calm. So I usually put on one of my favorite playlists that I have built over a few years, and it's in Spotify. I'll put the link in here as well for you as well. But again, I encourage you to build your own. So I prefer to paint on what is called cold press paper. And we did speak about this the other day a little bit. There's hot press and there's cold press. Hot press paper is very smooth. Think of like an iron's gone on it to make it really smooth. And cold press paper has a little bit of a texture to it. So I buy kind of a mid-grade brand called Strathmore. You can get it at Michael's or Opus. Just check your pricing. Sometimes Michael's has their great 40% off coupon, but sometimes Opus has great, seasonal sales as well. So check out whatever is convenient for you. And I typically buy large sheets and I cut them up to a size that's appropriate. Just gives like more flexibility if you want to do bigger paintings or cards, and I can make my own sizes depending on what type of class. So the cold press paper, which I love, has a little bit of texture to it, or we call that like tooth in when we talk about our papers. And there's one that's going to feel a little bit bumpier side and one that's going to feel a little bit smoother of your cold press. I prefer to go on the bit of a smoother side. I find the texture one sometimes has a bit too much of a manufactured type texture to it, but again, that depends on the brand and such. So for my lessons, we typically paint on cold press paper. Buy yourself a little pack. You can get them even smaller just to carry around in your purse if you feel like doing a little whoop-de-whoop on paper when you're out and about. So that is your paper. I will do subsequent videos that talk in more depth about the weight, like the heaviness and different textures of papers, but we'll do that separately because I could go all the live long day about that one. Okay, and then let's talk about paints. So in my classes, I keep it fairly simple for beginners. We don't like to go over the top, and we use these little palettes by Winsor Newton, Cotman brand. And you don't have to be fancy. You don't have to have a million colors, because what we really like to do is learn to mix our own, okay? And you can choose to mix them up here, or we like to transfer to, I just get this little appetizer platter from the Sally Ann. Got a whole bunch of them. I think they were like 99 cents each. So you can transfer some of your paint from your little palette once it's really wet, or we can use squeezy tubes of paint. And again, I recommend that you try all different kinds, some that are lower quality and some that are higher quality, so you can determine which ones are the best fit for you. Like honestly, I have these Artist Loft ones that came in like a big artsy pack one day. They work sometimes depending on what I'm trying to achieve. I got this little pack from a trip to Japan years ago, and they still serve me really well. There's some interesting colors. And then I love these. I popped into Opus the other day and I wanted to buy myself a little treat and spend a little extra money and get some wonderful colors. And the lovely staff, they're so helpful at the Langley Opus, recommended these Daniel Smith ones, and they're just made in Seattle, which I love that idea, and treated myself to a few little squeezy tubes of them. So these are portable. You can pack them in your purse, your bag, your suitcase when you're on a trip, and do some small little art projects with those paints. Brushes. I recommend having a variety as well. So especially when you're learning, you can try different techniques and figure out what works for you. So I have, this brand is Kalia and this one is Nimbus. Again, I'm personally indifferent to brands, especially because if you know me well, you know I bring this little one, I call this my raccoon brush, into a process. And this one was my grandma's. It is 1 billion years old and it has a lot of hours of painting and a lot of love in here. I call it my raccoon brush because it kind of looks like a mangy little one in bad weather. It's like popped out of a dumpster, but it does magical things. Again, because if my real tools, like my mindset and such are, and my heart and soul are in it, then it doesn't really matter. However, for beginning, I like to have 2 round brushes, 1 medium, 1 small for detail, and 2 flat brushes. So our flat brushes are great for washes in the background, and you can see that they are flat. And then these ones are round. Okay, so I've got a small, this is a 5, this is an 8, and I think different brands do different numbers. This one is a 3/4 inch and this one is a 1/2 inch. So 2 round, 2 flat, those will serve you well. And if you find something on the marketplace or hand me down from a family member, get something, you know, old and fun to doodle around with. Okay, and our surface that we're painting on, again, feel free to, you can buy these little packs of paper that you can take around with you. In my classes, we use these boards. This is just like press board that we've cut up to about 11-14 size. And we tape down our work. I'll talk to you about tape and such. So when we add water to our watercolor paper, it tends to wibble wobble and get some dips in it as well. So we tape it down to give it some stability, hair dry it in between to dry out some of those puddles and do our layers and such. Some people don't like to tape it down. They like to have the maneuverability and move things around. Some people, you know, also don't like the tape because they like to work with all the peaks and valleys in there. They like puddles on the paper. This is your exploration to figure it out. But the tape that I use to tape down my cold press paper on a board is a little bit more expensive sometimes, but tried and true. I prefer to use frog tape, and the 2 reasons why I don't prefer the dollar store green painter's tape, because I find when it gets wet, it pops off my page quite a bit. And also when we tape down over the edges of our paper, I like to sort of tape down about 1/4 inch, maybe sometimes 1/8 inch. And this frog tape has a nice level of transparency. So it's not too opaque, but it's also not too transparent. And when I hover it over the edge of my page, I can see through it a little bit so I can get a nice accurate border around there. So tried and true, I really enjoy my frog tape. Okay, and just a couple other simple little things that we often refer to in my classes is I have, where did I put it? My putter pages. Where did they go? They're around here somewhere. Okay, so I think it's important, rather than having the pressure of just diving into your painting that you're doing, is to have a little separate page next to you so you can test your colors before you put them onto your painting. I call these putter pages. It's like puttering around the house. They can be practice pages, but don't put all the stress on yourself that you have to make everything perfect. What an awful word, that's a swear word in my class. Make everything perfect right out of the get-go. So keep this to your side. I collect them after I cut out my great big sheets of paper and size them down. Sometimes I have little strips. You can turn them into bookmarks and such too, but these will serve you well, okay? I also always love to have a black fine liner. Find your brand. I do like a good Sharpie, ultra fine. This one happens to be Japanese brand, which I love, and it has a tiny, tiny little point on it. It's great for adding your signature or making notes as you go. So find yourself your favorite black fine liner. Don't let anybody steal it. They will. And then also, I referred to this sort of earlier too, is having a mixing surface. So if you are going with your tubes of paint, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I find that the paints don't mix very well on glass. There are glass surfaces that people use. I prefer this more sort of like dinner plate, porcelain type surface. So again, find what works well for you. There's lots of plastic paint palettes out there with small little wells in them. Feel free to try those out as well. And those are great. They're cheap, they're light, they're portable, so you can take your art journey anywhere you like. And then just a couple little things that are bonus, like gravy in your practice. So I like to have, this is called like graphite paper or carbon paper, right? Remember old school NCR forms? And this stuff is fabulous because I'll show in a subsequent video, but it just looks like this, right? So it's helping us if we find that thinking of ideas and drawing ideas make it really, really stressful and you just want to focus on painting and learning your techniques, no problem at all. You can pre-print your ideas, maybe like a floral drawing, and then you can use this transfer paper to help transfer the outline onto your cold press paper, your watercolor paper, and fill it in from there. So this helps you take the pressure out of drawing and feeling that you have to get that right. So this is just a graphite paper, carbon paper. I also really love to have just these last two pieces in my toolkit. I love to have a favorite little sketchbook or notebook. And you can see here that we've just started to do some value sketches. We will talk about that. But it's just nice to have, and you can pop your little notes in and such. I'll go into detail about what those value sketches are. So with that comment, having a grayscale value finder is excellent. And again, no stress, just pack one of those to a future class, and this will help you, and it'll help you understand. I'll elaborate on what those are for at a later date. Okay, I think that is everything. Those are just basic tools. And remember, explore, try the cheapo ones, see what's at a garage sale. It's always fun, right, to see maybe there were other stories and other people created some wonderful works with other tools. Maybe there's something that a family member can pass down to you, or maybe you get a little gift card and treat yourself to something special from the art store. But remember that this process is yours. It's all up to you to explore. No pressure. There's no right, no wrong, no good, no bad, no pretty, no ugly. This is all just for you. So thanks for tuning in. I've got a few other subsequent videos that will talk about more of those supplies in detail. Okay, enjoy your artistic journey.